Hello, and thank you for checking out another brief video. Today, I want to address the 6 reasons why I believe that real estate prices are still holding very firm in certain areas. I like to use the word compartmentalized, meaning that I believe real estate has become very regional and compartmentalized in how it transacts and how it functions. So you can have one market maybe very close to another market. One could be very strong and the other might be very weak just based upon macroeconomic factors. Let's get started. The first thing that I think we are dealing with when we're talking about real estate is the fact that rates have gone from virtually, 30-year mortgage rates virtually down around 3 a few years ago to now we are sitting and hovering right around 8. I think that's the biggest factor that's facing our lack of inventory or lack of supply is most people don't want to give up their very low interest rate. As most of you already know, I'm sure, seeing an interest rate on a home loan, whether it's 30 or 15 year, going from 2 to 4 or 4 to 6 has a vast impact on your monthly payment. And we think that's the most influential factor as to why we don't see more real estate on the market. The other one would just be, like I just said, the compartmentalization that is occurring in real estate. I think you can have certain markets that would be more rural next to urban markets, and the urban market could be extremely weak, and the rural market could be extremely strong. I'll get into maybe why that might be a little bit later, but I think a lot of that has to do with some of the changes that went on around the COVID experience. I think we've seen a somewhat of a change in our economy overall, and I feel like it has caused many people to feel comfortable leaving the confines of the city since maybe they're working in their office job at the office a little bit less. I've heard that the average statistic is such that 2 days a week currently people are still not needing to report to the office. So if you are only going into the office half of what you were before, or roughly half, your lifestyle needs and choices can change. So in other words, you might be able to move out of the city into an urban area, pick up more land, more real estate, more benefits at a lower cost. So I feel like that's why there's been more compartmentalization in our real estate market. Another reason why I think real estate has been so strong in certain markets, mine specifically echoes this. We were in an environment where rental rates in our area were extremely unattractive for investors for a very long time. In other words, there wasn't enough meat on the bone, there wasn't enough profit to incentivize many individuals to rent properties because rents hadn't really been keeping pace with the escalation or the price appreciation in the underlying asset, which had caused many people to just seek returns elsewhere. Now, in my market, and not all markets, but in many markets, rates have escalated to be a little bit more favorable for holding on to rentals that were already owned. Now, in my market, both rents went up and prices have gone up. So maybe may still not be attracting new people into the rental market, but I think it's definitely attracting current owners of rental properties to stick with what they own and to not jump ship just because they can earn so much more now than what they could 2, 3, 4 years ago. I already mentioned this, but the balance between your work and home life is, a significant change. COVID changed that possibly and probably forever. Obviously, I don't know that for sure. That could resume back to how it was, where we all go into the office every day of the week. But I tend to doubt it. I think when you give people a taste of being home a little bit more, I think that is attractive to many people. I think it lowers the costs for many people, and I think it's a trend that might be at least partially here to stay. The other thing that I think is having a significant factor that was also somewhat brought upon by COVID, but probably not as much as what I think, is the fact that I think many in our society that were maybe on the bottom of the totem pole from an income earnings standpoint have moved up, and that has caused them to want to move up in their living standards, which has caused them, this is a guess on my part, but as I drive through some of the less desirable areas in some of the cities around me, I see a lot of homes that are not in the best condition. Some of them look like they haven't had anyone living there for a long time. It would be my opinion that a lot of those individuals may have just left, right? They didn't bother selling their home. Maybe they just decided to leave their home for whatever reason. And they took their new jobs, took their new incomes, and just moved into a different home and are enjoying the benefits of just a better lifestyle, for lack of a better term. The other thing that I think might be impacting people in a lot of markets is the red tape and the cost and time to build, right? So if we think back to a couple of the things that I've mentioned here, a lot of them can somewhat boil down to a labor shortage. And I think when you're talking about building a new home, it can be rather daunting due to the fact that you have to deal with permits and county, city restrictions. And then as well, you have to wait an extended period of time before you get that home. Oftentimes, you have to get financing through a different loan if you do a construction loan than you do, the traditional loans that you might do, which are more government backed. Um, so I think that has a lot to do with it. How you fund new construction homes, the red tape that you have to jump through to get a new construction home underway, the time of a delay that it takes. In my area, it might take 9 to 15 months to build a house. I guess if you're a really builder who's really on it, you can get it done in maybe 6 months, but even 6 months is a long time. So I think all these factors are having a very influential effect on real estate prices and then just the supply and demand dynamics. You combine this with the fact that still to this day in my area, you haven't really seen any substantial um, uh, foreclosures on commercial property. I'm a guy who continues to believe that real estate prices, well, all prices really on investments, are set at the margins, right? So if you have a lot of homes for sale, may not seem like that many or not many homes for sale, and it's significantly different than what it has been in the past. I think the amount of supply or lack of supply on the market matters significantly. And I think that the prices are set on that real edge of both extremes, right? So if you have a ton of stuff that comes in the market, obviously that's going to impact prices. But if you would just have a little bit more exposure to what comes on the market, like a minor bit more supply, I think that can change prices. And I think a lot of people in my industry have been waiting for the ball to drop on commercial real estate. And I think we've been kind of anticipating that to happen sooner, and it hasn't. And I think the fact that that hasn't happened yet has caused a lot of the price drops that we were originally thinking would happen to not happen because I've heard of banks that have had to just renegotiate terms on loans rather than foreclose. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if that combined with more private lending, as well as just all the capital that's sloshing around in our system currently, to somewhat circumvent. I don't think this will happen for the long term, but in the short term, I think it's somewhat circumvented the commercial real estate debacle or potential debacle that we've been anticipating. So this is just my opinion. Obviously, I could be totally wrong, but to me, this boils down to a few factors. Well, a very significant one is rates. To me, another significant one is the fact that things have been more compartmentalized. Rents have increased and really aren't falling yet. I think the work home balance has caused this to have just a stronger real estate market. I think the upward mobility for some and increased wages for quality work has caused a lack of, and I don't know if I'd say a lack of inventory. I think that's caused more buyers, which has caused less inventory. And then just the red tape that is required, red tape, time, and financing differences that are incurred by people when they go to build. I think those are the 6 reasons why real estate has seemingly been significantly stronger than what we've anticipated. Now, I've spoken to many realtors in our area. Things are starting to change, right? So in the past, I've heard from most of the realtor contacts that I have, and I know many of them in our area, have been pretty busy and pretty steady. And here in the last, I don't know, I would say 3 to 6 months, that's changed. I think I've been hearing a lot more people who have been a little bit slower say the buyers are kind of tabled for now until rates come back down or change, if that happens. And then I still hear that there's just not inventory. So that's kind of my thoughts as to why I feel like real estate's been a little bit strong and maybe stronger than we think. Obviously, I would be a person that would think that eventually prices will fall. I think looking back historically at charts, we are still very elevated from a price standpoint, quite a bit above the norm. I'm not saying that can't continue, but historically it hasn't, right? Historically, nothing goes up forever. So I would still anticipate things resetting back to maybe a norm at some point, but who knows when that's going to happen. So hopefully you found this video informative and enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.